Hello there, thanks for stopping by Max's Cards and Dice Dugout. This is episode number 75. Robert Max here, and we got Strat-O-Matic Baseball on the table for continuation of the Oldtimer Kings King of the Hill Tournament. Game number 18, which has the 1954 Cleveland Indians hosting the 1961 Cincinnati Reds. These two teams did meet before back in Game 8. The roles were reversed at that time. Cincinnati was the king of the hill, and they held off the Indians 3-1. But let's take a quick look at the hill before we get to the starting lineups. There we see the Indians are the current kings, with the Reds challenging them, and the 65 Twins lying in wait to see who they'll be playing in game number 19. The Indians got to the hill by defeating the 62 Giants with an incredible performance by Early Win. It was a 3-hit complete game shutout, and definitely the best pitching performance of this tournament so far. So let's take a look at the starting lineups for tonight's game. Leading off for the Reds is Don Blasingame. He's at second base. Batting second is Eddie Casco, the shortstop. Batting third, Vada Pinson. He's in center field. Batting fourth, Frank Robinson. He's in right. Wally Post is in left and bats fifth. Batting sixth is Gene Freeze at third base. Gordy Coleman's at first base, and he bats seventh. Batting eighth is John Edwards, the catcher. And on the mound and batting ninth is Joey J. In 1961, he was 21-10 with a 3.53 ERA and 247 innings pitched. He's a number one hitting pitcher, so we'll replace his card in the lineup with the number one hitting pitcher's card. Okay, for the current Kings of the Hill, the 1954 Cleveland Indians, leading off in left field is Al Smith. Batting second, Bobby Avila at second base. Larry Doby in center field bats third. Al Rosen at third base bats fourth. Vic Wertz at first base bats fifth. Dave Philly in right field bats sixth. George Strickland, the shortstop, bats seventh. Jim Hagan, the catcher, bats eighth. And batting ninth and on the hill is Bob Feller. In 1954, he was 13-3 with a 3.09 ERA and 140 innings pitched. He is a number two hitting pitcher, so we'll replace his card with the number two pitcher's hitting card. And we are just about ready to get underway. The lineup cards have been turned in. Feller's finished his warm-up tosses. Blasingame's ready, and here we go with game number 18 in the Oldtimer Kings King of the Hill Tournament from Municipal Stadium in Cleveland. And leading off, Don Blasingame pops one up to first baseman Vic Wertz. He's under that, near the foul line, makes the catch for out number one. Next up is Eddie Casco, red shortstop. And he pops this one up to the infield as well. Underneath that is George Strickland at shortstop. Calls everyone else off, makes the catch, and there are two away. Your center fielder, Vada Pinson. And that's a ground ball to first baseman Vic Wertz. He's going to walk that over to the bag unassisted. And the Reds go quietly 1-2-3 in the top of the first. And with a half inning in the books, it's the Reds nothing and the Indians coming up to bat. Joey J comes out. Bob Feller does get a fatigue point for the inning. And leading off for the Indians here in the bottom of the first is left fielder Al Smith. He hits a fly ball to right field. Frank Robinson's under that, and he makes the catch. One away. Here's second baseman Bobby Avila, or Avila. And he hits a hard liner to shortstop Eddie Casco, who makes a great play for out number two. So 2 outs, nobody on here in the bottom of the first for center fielder Larry Doby. And he hits a high fly ball to right field. That's going to send Frank Robinson back near the track, but he's under it and makes the catch. And the Cleveland Indians go 1-2-3 in the bottom of the first. And after one inning of play, we are scoreless. Joey J gets a fatigue point for the completion of the inning. Bob Feller's back out to face Frank Robinson leading off in the top of the second. And that's a strikeout. It's the first strikeout for Feller. And the first out here in the top of the second. One out, nobody on for left fielder Wally Post. He hits a ground ball to third baseman Al Rosen, fires over to Vic Wertz for the second out. And there are two away. Bases empty, 2 outs for third baseman Gene Freese. And Freese draws a walk. First base runner of the game. See, it's a misprint here on the card. It's a 22. But we're going to make the assumption that's a 12. So Freese trots down to first base with a 2-out walk. So there's a man on first with 2 outs for first baseman Gordy Coleman. And Coleman hits a fly ball to right fielder Frank Robinson. He's on the track and makes the catch for out number 3. So after 1.5 innings of play, we're still scoreless. Feller's going to get his second fatigue point here. And Joey J's out for the bottom of the second. And he's got Al Rosen, Vic Wertz, and Dave Philly. George Strickland, if anyone gets on base. And Rosen draws leadoff walk. So he's on first with nobody out. And here's Vic Wertz, the first baseman for the Indians. He hits a ground ball to shortstop Eddie Casco. It's an X check. Casco is a 2. We roll a 14. Casco makes a nice play, fires over to second baseman Don Blasingame, who then turns and fires to first baseman Gordy Coleman for a 6-4-3 double play. And there are 2 away here in the bottom of the second. So 2 outs, nobody on for right fielder Dave Philly. And Philly hits a 2-out single. It's the first hit of the game. He makes the turn, but heads back to first base. So he's there with 2 outs. And shortstop George Strickland. That's a ground ball to first baseman Gordy Coleman. And he's going to take that to the bag unassisted for the 3rd out. So the Indians do get their first hit, but leave Dave Philly stranded, and after 2 innings of play, we are scoreless. Jay gets another fatigue point. And here's John Edwards leading off in the top of the 3rd. Reds catcher. And that's a strikeout. That's the 2nd strikeout for Feller. And the first out here in the top of the 3rd. So 1 out, bases empty for pitcher Joey J. And that's another strikeout for Feller. That's his 3rd. And we're back to the top of the order with 2 outs. Don Blasingame, who grounded out or popped out to first base his first time up. This time he pops it up to shortstop George Strickland. And he's under that, makes the catch. And the Reds go 1, 2, 3 in the top of the third. And after 2.5, we are still scoreless. Feller gets his third fatigue point. Here's Joey J out for the bottom of the third. He's got Jim Hagan, pitcher Bob Feller, and Al Smith to face. And that's a strikeout. That's the first strikeout for Jay. And there's one away here in the bottom of the third. It's pitcher Bob Feller. And that's strikeout number 2 for Joey J. And we go back to the top of the order. Al Smith with nobody on and 2 outs. And Al Smith hits a 2-out single. Makes the turn at first base. Heads back to the bag. So he's there with 2 outs. And second baseman Bobby Avila. And that's a single with a 2-base advance. That's going to send Al Smith to third. There's asterisks there. So we're going to hold him at third base. We got runners on the corners. Actually, he's a 1-16 running with 2 outs. That becomes a 1-18. He's getting waved around, and he scores. And the Indians take a 1-0 lead. Avila gets an RBI, and Jay gets a fatigue point. So there's a man on first with 2 outs. The Indians lead 1-0, and Larry Doby, center fielder, who flew out to right field his first time up. This time he pops it up to first baseman Gordy Coleman. He's under that, makes the catch for out number 3. But the Indians do score on Bobby Avila's RBI single, and after 3 innings of play, it's the Indians 1 and the Reds 0. Joey J gets his 4th fatigue point. Feller's coming out for the top of the 4th with a 1-run lead. 1-0, and it's Eddie Casco, Veda Pinson, and Frank Robinson, heart of the order. And he hits a ground ball back to Bob Feller. It is an X-check. All pitchers in this basic game are rated a fielding rating of 2. He rolls a 16. And Feller makes a nice play. Tosses over to Vic Wirtz for out number 1. So Casco's retired. 1-3. And there's 1 out here in the top of the 4th. Indians lead 1-0. Here's Veda Pinson. Pinson grounded out to first base his first time up. This time he pops it up to second baseman Bobby Avila, who's under that, makes the catch, 2 away. 2 outs, nobody on for Frank Robinson. Robinson struck out his first time up. This time he hits a ground ball to shortstop George Strickland. Fires over to Vic Wirtz for out number 3. And the Reds go 1, 2, 3 in the top of the 4th, and after 3.5, it's the Indians 1 and the Reds 0. Joey J's back out. Feller gets his 4th fatigue point. Joey J's already at 4 because of giving up that run. And here in the bottom of the 4th, it's going to be Al Rosen, Vic Wirtz, and Dave Philly, George Strickland, if anyone gets on. This is a fly ball to right fielder Frank Robinson. He's under that. near the warning track, makes the catch. 1 out. 1 out, nobody on for Vic Wirtz. Wirtz hit into a double play his first time up. And this time he strikes out. That's strikeout number 3 for Feller. And there are 2 outs here in the bottom of the 4th. Or excuse me, that's strikeout number 3 for Joey J. All right, here's Dave Philly. Nobody on, 2 outs. And he hits a ground ball to second baseman Bobby Avila. Or excuse me, second baseman Don Blasingame, who is a 3. Roll that again, and it's an 11. And that is going to be the 3rd out. Blasingame makes a nice play and tosses over to Gordy Coleman for the 3rd out. And the Indians go 1, 2, 3 here in the bottom of the 4th. Joey J gets his 5th fatigue point. And after 4 innings of play, it's the Indians 1 and the Reds nothing. Here we are at this Buckeye State Battle. And Bob Feller's going to face Wally Post here in the top of the 5th. And he pops it up to shortstop George Strickland. Routine play, 1 away. Here's third baseman Gene Freeze. He walked his first time up. This time he hits a ground ball to third baseman Al Rosen. Tosses over to Vic Wirtz for out number 2. 2 outs, nobody on for Gordy Coleman. He flew out to right field his first time up. Feller delivers. And this time he hits a line drive to shortstop George Strickland, who robs Coleman of a hit for the 3rd out. And the Reds go 1, 2, 3 in the top of the 5th. 4.5 in the books. The Indians lead the Reds 1-0. Feller gets his 5th fatigue point. Not Feller. Yes, Feller gets his 5th fatigue point. Jay is already at 6. I missed one for him, but anyway, Jay is going to face Strickland, Hagen, and Feller here in the bottom of the 5th. No, that's wrong. He's at 5. I apologize for that. But anyway, Strickland pops it up to third baseman Gordy Coleman, Gene Freeze, for out number 1. So there's 1 away here in the bottom of the 5th. And Jim Hagen. And that's a strikeout. That's strikeout number 4 for Feller. And there are 2 away here in the... strikeout number 4 for Joey J. I'm getting these backwards. But anyway, there's two away here in the bottom of the 5th. And Bob Feller. And Feller pops this up to first baseman Gordy Coleman. He makes the catch for out number 3. Indians go 1, 2, 3 in the bottom of the 5th. And after 5, it's the Indians 1 and the Reds nothing. So Jay now gets his 6th fatigue point. Feller's out here for the top of the 6th. He's at 5 fatigue points right now. And first batter up is going to be John Edwards, Reds catcher. And Edwards hits a long, high fly ball. Larry Doby goes back. It's over his head, way up, out of here, gone. And this game is tied. A leadoff home run for John Edwards. And we are knotted at 1. Feller gets his 6th fatigue point. Here's pitcher Joey J. And that's a strikeout. Strikeout number 4 for Feller, who's still shaking his head after giving up that home run. But he gets his counterpart to whiff, and we're back to the top of the order. Don Blasingame, 1 out, nobody on. Oh boy. And here's another high, deep fly ball, but this time it's to right fielder Dave Philly, and he watches it go over his head, and it is now 2-0 Cincinnati. 2 solo shots in this inning. My. Feller gets fatigue point number 7. How the winds can change. All right, nobody on, 1 out. Eddie Casco. He hits a ground ball to third baseman Vic Wertz, fires over to not Vic Wertz. He hits a ground ball to Al Rosen, who fires over to Vic Wertz for the 2nd out. Come on, Max. Get your act together. Okay, there's 2 outs, nobody on. And Cincinnati leads 2-1. Here's Veda Pinson. And Pinson hits a ground ball to second baseman Bobby Avila. Routine play over to Vic Wertz for out number 3. But the Reds do score 2 runs on 2 solo shots, one from Edwards, the other from Blasingame. And after 5.5 innings in the books, the Reds now lead 2-1. Feller gets his 8th fatigue point. Joey J's at 6 as he comes out for the bottom of the 6th, and we're at the top of the order with Al Smith. And Smith pops this one up to shortstop Eddie Casco. And there's 1 away. Here's Bobby Avila. And Avila draws the 1-out walk. So he's on first with 1 away for Larry Doby, who's 0 for 2. And he hits a fly ball to center fielder Veda Pinson. Makes the catch. Avila holds it first, and there are 2 away. Here's third baseman Al Rosen. It's a ground ball to second baseman Don Blasingame. Over to Gordy Coleman. 4-3 put out for out number 3. And the Indians do not score, and after 6 innings of play, it's the Reds 2 and the Indians 1. Jay gets his 7th fatigue point. Feller's at 8, and he's back out here in the top of the 7th, facing Robinson, Post, and Freeze. Robinson is 0 for 2. This time he draws a walk. So a leadoff walk for Frank Robinson. He's on first base. He is rated an A stealer, but Hagen's a 1, so we're going to play conservative, and he's going to hold up there. Here's Wally Post. In fact, we're going to try a hit and run with Wally Post. So Robinson's on first, nobody out, and the hit and run is on. We roll the 7. Batter misses pitch. Pick card for steal result. So Frank Robinson is off and running. Let's see, he is an A, which is a 1/15. But with Hagen's 1 rating, that's a 1/9. He's going to lose 6. So he's a 1/9. He's safe. And he is in there. So Robinson steals first. So he's on second base with nobody out. And it's an 0-1 count to Wally Post. And he strikes out. Strikeout number 5 for Jay, and there's 1 away. Here in the top of the 7th, or excuse me, strikeout number 5 for Feller. Why am I getting these names backwards? Oh boy. All right, Robinson's on second, 1 out, and Gene Freeze. And he strikes out. That's strikeout number 6 for Feller. And there are 2 away. Here's Gordy Coleman. He's 0 for 2. And it's a ground ball to second baseman Bobby Avila. It's an X check. He is a 3, and we roll a 9. And Avila makes a nice play over to Vic Wirtz, and the Reds are retired. They leave Robinson stranded at second base, and after 6.5, they lead the Indians 2-1. Feller gets his 9th fatigue point. And Jay is out here for the bottom of the 7th. He's at 7 fatigue points, and he's got Wirtz, Philly, and Strickland to deal with. And it's a ground ball to first baseman Gordy Coleman. He's going to take that unassisted to the bag, 1 away. Right fielder Dave Philly, who is 1 for 2. This time he hits a ground ball to shortstop Eddie Casco, fires over to Gordy Coleman, 6-3 put out, 2 away. 2 outs, nobody on for shortstop George Strickland. He's 0 for 2. But not anymore. He hits a 2-out single, makes the turn, trots back to first base. So he's on first base with 2 out. And catcher Jim Hagan, who is 0 for 2, 2 strikeouts. I'm going to mark this strikeout there for Jay. This time Hagan hits a ground ball to shortstop Eddie Casco, over to Gordy Coleman, 6-3, inning over. And the Indians do not score in the bottom of the 7th, and with 7 innings in the books, it's the Reds 2 and the Indians 1. Jay gets his 8th fatigue point. Feller is at 9. This will certainly be his last inning because he's leading off in the bottom of the 8th. So here in the top of the 8th, it's John Edwards. And that's a strikeout. That is strikeout number 7 for Feller. There's 1 away. Here's pitcher Joey J. He's 0 for 2 with a couple strikeouts. This time he hits a ground ball to shortstop George Strickland, over to Vic Wirtz, 6-3, 2 down. So we're back to the top of the order. And Reds second baseman Don Blasingame, who is 1 for 3, and that one hit was a solo shot home run. His last time up. And he's on base again with a 2-out single. So Blasingame's on first, 2 away. And Eddie Casco. Casco is 0 for 3. And he hits a fly ball to center fielder Larry Doby. Near the track, he makes the catch, and there are 3 away. And the Reds do not score in the top of the 8th. After 7.5, it's the Reds 2. And the Indians 1. Feller gets his 10th fatigue point. But that's going to be it for him because he's leading off here in the bottom of the 8th. And pinch hitting for Bob Feller is going to be let's see, Wally Westlake, utility outfielder. He's going to bat for Feller. And warming up for the Indians is Mike Garcia. Mike Garcia will be warming up for the Indians. So will Don Mossy. He's going to take some tosses down there. So Westlake is going to pinch hit for Feller. Pinch hit. Bottom 8. And as I said, Mike Garcia and Don Mossy are both warming up for the Indians. But here's Westlake. And he pops this one to shortstop. Casco's under that, makes the catch. 1 away. Right. So we're back to the top of the order, and Al Smith. 1 out, nobody on. And he hits a fly, a fly ball to left fielder. Wally Post, he's under that, makes the catch. 2 away. 2 outs, nobody on for Bobby Avila. Avila is 1 for 3. This time he hits a ground ball to shortstop Eddie Casco, over to Gordy Coleman for the 3rd out here in the bottom of the 8th. And after 8 innings of play, it's the Reds 2 and the Indians 1. Joey J gets his 9th fatigue point. And Mike Garcia is going to come out and pitch. Garcia in 54 was 19-8 with a 2.64 ERA and 259 innings of work. He is a number 1 hitting pitcher, so I'm going to replace his card with the number 1 pitcher hitting card, just to keep that place in the lineup. All right, so Garcia is the new pitcher for the Indians. And he comes out in the top of the 9th. All right. So he's going to face Vada Pinson, first batter for the Reds here in the top of the 9th. The Reds leading 2-1, trying to unseat the Indians from the hill and become kings once again. And that's a leadoff single for Pinson. Good start. Here's Frank Robinson. Robinson's 0 for 2 with a walk. And he remains 0 for 2 with another walk. Not a good start for Garcia. We got runners on first and second with nobody out. Excuse me, and the Indians trying to keep this a one-run game. Here's Wally Post. It's a fly ball to center fielder Larry Doby. It is an X check. He is a 1. We roll a 16. And he makes the catch, and the runners are forced to hold. So there's 1 out, men on first and second, and Gene Freeze. Freeze is 0 for 2 with a walk. This time he hits a single, it's going to score a run. So 1 out single for Freeze. Post is held up at third, but Pinson scores, and it's now 3-1 Cincinnati. Garcia gets 1 fatigue point. And now there are runners on the corners with 1 out. Excuse me again. The Indians are bringing the infield in for Gordy Coleman. And this is trouble. Gordy Coleman hits one in the right center gap. It's going to go to the wall, and it's a double. It's going to score Frank Robinson. Freeze is being held up at third. And it's now 4-1. Garcia gets another fatigue point. So it's second and third with 1 out. Infield is still in for John Edwards. And that is a single that's going to score Freeze, where the wheels have fallen off. Coleman moves to third. Freeze scores. And the Cleveland faithful can't believe it. It's 5-1 now. Third fatigue point for Garcia. There's some more action in the bullpen, and it's Don Mossy. Jay staying out there with the 4-run lead. And first and third with 1 out. Infield's in. Jay swinging away. That's a ground ball back to the pitcher. It's going to force Coleman to hold at third base. His only play is over to first. And it's going to allow Edwards to move up to second. But they get the 1-3 put out. They're 2 away. And they'll bring the infield back now. Back to the top of the order, 2 outs. Don Blasingame, 2 outs, and runners on second and third. And Blasingame hits a fly ball to right fielder Dave Philly, who is under that, makes the catch for the 3rd out. But not before the Reds score 3 runs. Excuse me, 3 runs. And as after 8.5, it's the Reds 5 and the Indians 1. Joey J going for the complete game. Garcia gets another fatigue point. He's at 4. Not that it looks like it's going to much matter, but here's Larry Doby. Doby is 0 for 3. This time he hits a ground ball to third baseman Gene Freeze. Fires over to Gordy Coleman for the 1st out. And there's 1 away here in the bottom of the 9th. Time's running out for the Indians. Here's Al Rosen. He is 0 for 2. This time he hits a line out to third baseman Gene Freeze, who makes a great play for out number 2. And this is it. Last chance for the Indians is Vic Wertz. 2 outs, nobody on. Reds lead 5-1. And he hits a ground ball to third baseman Gene Freeze. This is an X-check. Freeze is a 4. We're rolling 19. And it tells us to select another card. Or excuse me, no, Freeze was a 4. And I apologize for that. Freeze is a 4. And that was a ground out to end the game. 5-3. And this one is over. So the Indians were kings of the hill for a short time, for one game. Reds have unseated them, and they return to the hill. That's going to give the Reds 3 wins. Just 2 behind the win-leading 1950 Philadelphia Phillies. Let's see if we can get some totals for you. All right. The Indians had 1 run on four hits. Nice performance by Jay. And they didn't commit any errors. The Reds, 5 runs on. Boy, they really came alive in the 6th inning. 1, 2. Five hits. 2 of them were home runs. Excuse me, and no errors. So, Joey J, of course, gets the win, complete game win. The loss goes to Bob Feller. And so now the Reds will take on the 65 Minnesota Twins in game number 19. I decided that I really, as far as baseball, really wanted to concentrate on this game. I mean, I may do some one-offs with some other baseball sims, but I really want to concentrate on this Strat-O-Matic. I'm having the most fun with it, and you know, this has the potential to have a whole lot of games, and I'm gonna hopefully get a lot of mileage out of these cards. So what I plan on doing going forward is featuring this game every other video, and in between the Strat-O-Matic games, I'll do some other projects. In fact, the next video is going to be a new project, which I'll be starting my 1974-75 New York Nets replay using up-tempo basketball, which is a newer game from Clark and Addison Gaming Company and the creator Brian Haverkamp. But that's next video. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, and until next time, take care.